What if I told you that thousands of years before modern pharmacology started prescribing lithium to treat things like severe anxiety and bipolar disorder,
Right.
ancient humans were already doing it, like instinctively placing these heavy purple stones directly under their chests to calm their nervous systems.
Which is just wild to think about.
It really is, because modern geology now tells us that those exact stones are absolutely packed with raw physical lithium.
It's one of those historical facts that it absolutely stops you in your tracks.
Yeah.
Humanity has this incredibly long track record of finding things in the dirt, and recognizing this profound, almost inexplicable power in them. And they were utilizing them long, long before we had the microscopes or the chemical assays to explain exactly why they worked.
And that gap, that massive space between ancient intuition and modern understanding, is exactly where we are dropping anchor today. So welcome to the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we are unpacking a comprehensive and honestly completely fascinating guide to crystal witchcraft.
It really is fascinating.
And I want to set the table for you right now listening to this. Whether you are deeply embedded in esoteric practices, or maybe, you're just looking for a highly structured system for mindfulness.
Or maybe you just want to know why your incredibly successful coworker keeps a jagged chunk of purple amethyst sitting next to their keyboard.
Exactly. We are going to explore the historical, the practical, and the deeply psychological layers of this practice.
Because it really is a practice that refuses to sit neatly in one box. It bridges so many different realms.
Oh, for sure.
We're talking about ancient history, geological science, cognitive behavioral anchoring, and modern psychology all kind of intersecting.
Right.
The materials we're looking at today, they don't treat crystals as passive decorations. They treat them as a highly specific technology, like a technology of intention.
But to understand how to use a technology, we first have to understand what it physically is.
Yeah.
Right? And how our ancestors viewed these objects. Mm-hmm. Because the moment you start looking at the history of humanity, you realize we have been obsessed with these stones since the dawn of recorded time.
Absolutely.
This isn't some new age trend born in the 1970s.
Not even close. The use of crystals in spirituality and functional magic dates back millennia.
Right.
Let's look at the ancient Egyptians, for example. They possessed a highly complex spiritual cosmology, especially regarding death and the afterlife.
Yeah, they didn't mess around with the afterlife.
No, they did not. And they weren't just decorating tombs to make them look wealthy. They were placing lapis lazuli, which is this deep, celestial blue stone flecked with gold. They were placing it specifically on bodies of the dead.
And there was a specific, mechanical reason for that in their belief system, right? It wasn't just, blue is pretty.
Exactly. Lapis lazuli literally mimics the night sky. The gold flecks of pyrite inside it, they look exactly like stars against a deep blue void. So the Egyptians believed that placing this stone on the deceased would literally guide the soul through the dark, starry expanse of the afterlife.
Wow.
It was a functional compass for the soul. The physical aesthetic of the stone totally dictated its metaphysical application.
And it wasn't just for navigating the afterlife, right? Because you see practical applications for living across countless cultures.
Oh, everywhere.
Like the ancient Greeks utilized hematite extensively. And hematite is this dense, heavy metallic stone that is incredibly rich in iron oxide.
Right, which means it rusts.
Yes. When it's ground up or when it rusts, it bleeds this deep, visceral red color.
Like actual blood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Greeks associated it with blood, with vitality, and consequently with Ares, the god of war. They would literally rub powdered hematite on their bodies before battle.
Because they believed the stone physically imparted invulnerability and courage.
Yeah. And then if you jump forward to medieval Europe, you find the widespread practice of scrying with crystal balls.
Right, the classic fortune teller image.
Exactly. Practitioners use the refractive, flawless qualities of polished, clear quartz to try and gain insights about the past, present, or future.
And globally, from indigenous cultures using specific stones in medicine bundles to ancient Chinese royalty being buried in literally entire suits made of jade to prevent physical decay.
Which is incredible.
Right. The universal human consensus has basically always been there is an active power trapped inside these stones.
But for a long time, that power was chalked up entirely to mysticism, to the gods, to magic, to the spirits of the earth.
Sure.
But modern geology actually gives us a totally different, intensely scientific lens into why these stones feel so radically different from, the gravel in your driveway.
Because crystals are not just random rocks. They are literal records of extreme planetary forces.
Right.
They are forged in the absolute extremes of the Earth's environment. And understanding that origin is kind of crucial to understanding how practitioners use them today.
Okay, so let's break that down.
The Earth creates these stones through 3 primary geological processes. First, we have igneous formation.
Which is just sheer violent thermodynamics.
Precisely. Igneous crystals are born from fire. They form from cooling molten magma or lava.
So we're talking volcano-level heat.
Oh, easily. Temperatures reaching thousands of degrees deep within the earth or exploding out of volcanoes. And as this liquid fire cools, the minerals within it begin to crystallize.
Okay.
This intense fiery birth is where you get stones like clear quartz or obsidian.
And obsidian is essentially volcanic glass, right?
Exactly. It cooled so fast it didn't even have time to form a crystalline structure. So you get this sharp, protective, dense black material.
Okay, so that's the first one. Then you have the second origin, which is metamorphic. And if igneous is about heat, metamorphic is about unfathomable pressure over vast expanses of time.
Yes. Metamorphic stones are formed deep, deep within the Earth's crust. Just imagine the weight of entire mountain ranges pressing down.
Just millions of tons of rock.
Right. These are pre-existing rocks that are subjected to such extreme, crushing tectonic pressure and heat over millions of years that their very chemical composition fundamentally changes. They metamorphose.
Wow.
This is the birthplace of incredibly dense, resilient stones like garnet and jade. And what's interesting is the energy associated with them in witchcraft often mirrors this origin.
Like endurance.
Exactly. Endurance, transformation under pressure, and this deep, unshakable strength.
That makes a lot of sense.
Ah.
And finally, you have sedimentary crystals. This is a much slower, more rhythmic process, I guess.
Very much so.
Because these are formed from mineral deposits left behind by water or wind over millions of years, just layer upon layer upon layer of sediment slowly compressing.
Malachite falls into this category.
Oh, with those beautiful hypnotic green bands.
Yes. And those bands literally show the passage of time and water. So when you hold one of these stones, you are literally holding a piece of compressed planetary history.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But what really separates a crystal from like a regular piece of granite?
It all comes down to the molecular structure. Because they are formed under these highly specific extreme conditions, crystals develop a lattice.
A lattice?
Yeah, a highly stable, perfectly repeating geometric molecular structure. Most matter around us is somewhat chaotic at the molecular level, but a crystal is ordered. It is geometrically perfect.
And that stable structure is essentially the central thesis for this entire deep dive.
Absolutely.
Because of that repeating molecular grid, a crystal behaves differently in the physical world. It has the ability to emit and absorb energy in a remarkably consistent manner.
Right.
And we are not just talking about abstract metaphysical, vibes here. We are talking about literal physics.
We are. It's called the piezoelectric effect.
Okay, explain that.
When you apply mechanical pressure to certain crystals, like quartz, they generate a literal electrical charge.
Really?
Yes. And conversely, when you apply an electrical charge to them, they vibrate at an incredibly precise, unchanging frequency.
Wow.
This isn't witchcraft. This is why quartz is the beating heart of modern technology. It's in our watches, our radios, our computer motherboards. It regulates the flow of electrical energy with perfect, unyielding precision.
So if I understand the underlying logic of crystal witchcraft here, it's basically taking that literal physical principle and applying it to human biology and psychology.
That's exactly it.
Because our personal energy, like our anxiety about a deadline or our grief over a breakup or our scattered focus, is fundamentally chaotic.
Very chaotic.
Our brain waves and our emotional states are just constantly fluctuating.
We are messy.
We are incredibly messy. We are giant walking balls of chaotic frequency.
Right. But the crystal is not messy. A crystal's molecular structure does not fluctuate. It holds a perfect, stable, unchanging frequency.
Yes. So as a practitioner, you are basically using that crystal like a tuning fork.
That's the perfect analogy.
When you introduce a stable frequency into a chaotic environment, the chaotic energy naturally wants to to align itself with the stable energy.
That is the exact mechanism. It is vibrational resonance.
Okay.
If you strike a tuning fork and bring it near a piano string that's tuned to the same note, the piano string will start vibrating without you even touching it.
Oh, wow.
The energy transfers. So in crystal witchcraft, you are consciously choosing to bring a stable, organize energetic frequency into your personal, chaotic, energetic field with the intention of forcing your field to tune itself to the stone.
Which naturally leads us to the most practical question for you, the listener.
Mm.
If the entire goal is to tune your personal energy, how do you know which tuning fork to pick up?
Right.
How do you select the right frequency for your specific needs?
Well, this is where the practice shifts from hard geology into deeply personal intuition. Unlike very rigid, orthodox magical traditions where a grimoire tells you exactly what to do, step by step, crystal witchcraft is highly eclectic. It's intuitive. The first rule of selection is actually the simplest. Trust what your eye is drawn to.
Because the theory is that your subconscious already knows what frequency it's lacking. Right?
Exactly. You walk into a shop where you're looking at a collection of stones and your eye just keeps going back to the dark green one or the pale blue one.
Yeah.
Your subconscious is recognizing a resonance. But beyond raw intuition, there is a very structured methodology to building a toolkit. You evaluate the specific purpose.
Like what?
Like, are you trying to build a protective boundary around your emotions, or are you trying to open yourself up to a new relationship?
And the shape of the scone plays a role in that functionality too, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
A raw, unpolished stone is believed to have a more diffuse, kind of wild energy. A tumbled stone is smoother, more gentle, radiating evenly in all directions.
Right.
A crystal carved into a sphere emits energy equally out into a room, whereas a crystal shaped into a wand with a specific point is used like a laser beam to direct energy into a very specific target.
But perhaps the most universally accessible way to select a crystal is through color psychology.
Okay, let's talk about that.
The visual aspect of these stones is not accidental. Different colors correspond to different energetic wavelengths, both literally in terms of the light spectrum and psychologically in terms of human evolution.
Let's break down that evolutionary psychology because I think it grounds the magic so perfectly. Why do we associate red stones with passion and vitality?
Because for hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution, red has meant blood.
Oh, right.
It means a beating heart. It means the flush of the skin during arousal or anger. It means the fire that keeps us alive. It is the most primal, vital color we experience.
Wow, yeah.
So when a practitioner uses a red stone like ruby or red jasper, they are tapping into that deep evolutionary psychological anchor of survival, passion, and raw physical energy.
And by that same logic, blue stones like aquamarine or lapis lazuli are tied to communication, clarity, and calm, because blue is the color of a clear sky and clean, life-giving water.
Exactly. It triggers a parasympathetic nervous system response.
That is so cool. And green stones like malachite or jade are tied to healing, growth, and abundance because green means the winter is over, the crops are growing, there is food, and we are going to survive.
You are looking at the mechanism perfectly. The color of the stone acts as an immediate psychological shorthand for the brain, signaling the type of energy or focus that is required.
But you can't just buy a crystal, unwrap it, and expect it to immediately fix your life, right?
Definitely not.
There's a whole process of energetic hygiene that has to happen first.
Think about the journey a piece of quartz takes. It is mined from the earth, handled by miners, shipped across the world in massive crates, handled by distributors.
Right, so many hands.
Placed on a retail shelf, touched by dozens of curious shoppers, and finally sold to you. If the fundamental nature of a crystal is to absorb and regulate energy, it has likely picked up an immense amount of chaotic ambient noise along that journey.
It is a hard drive full of junk files.
Yes!
Yeah.
Great analogy. It's a hard drive full of junk.
So you have to wipe the hard drive. You have to cleanse it. And the sources say there are several ways to do this, ranging from the physical to the elemental. You can cleanse them with water like running them under a stream or soaking them in salt water.
Though we need to plant a massive warning flag right here, which we will deeply explore later. Not all crystals can go in water.
Right. Some will literally dissolve or leach poison.
Exactly. So for stones that can't touch water, you use smoke. You pass the crystal through the smoke of burning sage, cedar, or incense.
Because smoke changes the air.
Right. Smoke is chemically transformative. It alters the air. The belief is that the smoke clears the heavy, stagnant, energetic particles clinging to the stone.
What about sound?
You can also use sound ringing, a bell, or a singing bowl over the crystals to literally shatter the stagnant energy with acoustic vibration.
Oh, that's interesting.
Or you can use the purest light sources we have, leaving them out overnight to bathe in the purifying light of the full moon, or the charging vital energy of the morning sun.
Okay, so you've wiped the hard drive. The crystal is at its absolute baseline neutral frequency.
Right.
But a blank hard drive doesn't do anything for you until you install the software.
Exactly.
You have to program it.
Programming is where the practitioner's agency truly comes into play. A cleansed crystal is just vibrating at its natural state. Programming is the act of marrying your specific psychological intention to the physical object.
Walk me through the mechanics of that. If I'm holding a piece of cleansed rose quartz, what am I actually doing to program it?
Well, you hold the stone in your dominant hand, the hand you use to project energy into the world. You close your eyes and you focus deeply on your specific goal. Let's say your goal is to cultivate more self-compassion after a really harsh personal failure. You don't just think the words, you have to feel the emotion of what that compassion would feel like in your body.
You have to generate it.
Right. You generate that specific energetic frequency within your own chaotic system for a moment, and you visualize that feeling flowing down your arm, through your hand, and locking into the geometric lattice of the stone.
You are intentionally storing that emotional data inside the stable structure of the crystal.
Exactly.
So that later, when you are spiraling and forgetting to be kind to yourself, you can hold that stone and it will broadcast that exact pre-recorded feeling of compassion back to you.
It becomes an external battery pack for your best intentions.
Okay, let's look at the foundational tools. If a listener wants to start building this toolkit, what are the primary stones they should be looking for? What is the beginner's roster?
The foundational stones are chosen because they cover the broadest spectrum of human experience. Let's start with black tourmaline.
Oh, I've seen that one.
This is your ultimate grounding and protection stone. It is incredibly dense and opaque. Functionally, it acts as an energetic sponge.
Like a sponge.
Yeah. If you are walking into a highly toxic work environment or dealing with a deeply negative person, black tourmaline is programmed to absorb that erratic, hostile energy so your personal energetic field doesn't have to.
Then you have rose quartz, which we just touched on. This is the pale pink stone of the heart. It's used for emotional healing, romantic love, and deep self-care.
Right.
Citrine is another massive heavy hitter. It's this bright, translucent yellow stone that looks like crystallized sunshine.
It really does.
Citrine is the engine for abundance, motivation, and manifestation. It's a stone of action and confidence.
And moving into the more ethereal spaces, you have amethyst. This deep purple quartz variant is perhaps the most famous crystal globally.
Everyone knows amethyst.
Exactly. It is deeply tied to the mind, to intuition, and to spiritual growth. It is often used to calm the chatter of an anxious brain, making it excellent for meditation or placing by the bed to prevent nightmares.
And then, towering above them all in terms of pure versatility, you have clear quartz.
The big one?
It is referred to as the master healer and the ultimate energy amplifier. It can be programmed to mimic the properties of almost any other stone.
It is the ultimate blank slate. Its pure, unclouded structure makes it the most efficient, programmable material in the mineral kingdom.
But, and this actually brings up a huge logistical question for me.
Okay, what is it?
If clear quartz is the master healer, and its entire defining trait is that it perfectly amplifies all energy and can hold any intention,
Right.
why wouldn't a practitioner just buy 10 pieces of clear quartz and use them for absolutely everything?
That's a great question.
Why do I need to hunt down citrine for abundance or rose quartz for love if the clear quartz can just do it all? Is it just like consumerism?
That is a phenomenal question, and it really gets to the nuance of how vibrational frequencies work.
Yeah.
Think of clear quartz as a highly powerful generalized tool. It is a Swiss Army knife.
Okay.
It has a blade, it has a screwdriver, it has a corkscrew. It is infinitely adaptable.
Right. But using specialized stones, like the rose quartz or the citrine, is like using a surgical scalpel.
Oh, I see.
A Swiss Army knife can cut things, sure. But if you are performing delicate surgery, say, trying to heal a very specific, deeply rooted trauma surrounding your self-worth, you don't want the bulky Swiss Army knife. You want the scalpel.
Because the specialized stone already naturally vibrates at the frequency you're trying to achieve.
Exactly. The rose quartz already possesses a unique intrinsic vibrational frequency that resonates perfectly with the concept of compassion because of its mineral inclusions, its color psychology, and its specific earthly formation.
That makes a lot of sense.
When you use rose quartz for love, you don't have to work as hard to program it. You aren't forcing the stone to do something unnatural. You are just aligning your intention with what the stone already does best.
So clear quartz requires you to generate 100% of the specific intention. Rose quartz meets you halfway.
You got it.
The clear quartz is a blank slate, but the colored stones are preloaded with specific software optimized for a specific task.
And this idea of optimizing tasks naturally leads us into what happens when you start networking these tools together. You have a scalpel, you have a retractor, you have forceps. What happens when you build the operating room?
Right.
This brings us to the art of crystal grids and sacred geometry.
Sacred geometry is one of the most intellectually thrilling aspects of this practice because it is a concept that appears independently across countless global cultures.
Like where?
From ancient Islamic architecture to Buddhist mandalas to the blueprints of Gothic cathedrals, it is the belief that there are specific geometric patterns, proportions, and shapes that act as the fundamental underlying blueprints of universal creation.
You see these patterns everywhere in nature. The spiral of a nautilus shell, the hexagonal lattice of a honeycomb, the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower, the spiral arms of the Milky Way galaxy.
It's math.
Mathematics is the language of the universe, and sacred geometry is the visual representation of that math.
And in crystal witchcraft, practitioners utilize these specific universal blueprints as a framework to direct, amplify, and network the power of multiple stones simultaneously.
So they aren't just scattering pretty rocks on a table.
Not at all. They are building a highly structured energetic circuit.
Let's define the vocabulary of these shapes, because the visual geometry dictates the function of the grid.
Okay, let's do it.
First, you have the flower of life. This is an incredibly ancient symbol composed of multiple evenly spaced overlapping circles that form a flower-like pattern with a six-fold symmetry.
Very famous symbol.
Because it visually expands outward from a single point, it represents universal unity, the interconnectedness of all living things, and the cycle of creation. You would use this grid for broad, expansive goals like overall harmony or global healing.
Then you have Metatron's cube. This is a highly complex, aggressive geometric shape derived from the flower of life.
Aggressive how?
Well, what's fascinating about Metatron's cube is that it contains all 5 platonic solids within its lines.
Okay, remind me what those are.
The platonic solids are the 5 3D shapes: the tetrahedron, hexahedron, octahedron, dodecahedron, and icosahedron, that ancient philosophers believed formed the microscopic building blocks of the physical world.
Earth, air, fire, water, and ether.
Exactly.
No.
Because it contains all the building blocks of reality, Metatron's cube symbolizes divine balance, structural integrity, and the manifestation of thought into physical reality.
That's intense.
It is a powerhouse grid for bringing a massive, complex goal like starting a new business or overhauling your entire lifestyle into physical existence.
You also have the seed of life, which is the inner 7 circles of the flower of life, representing the initial stages of creation and perfect for new beginnings or fertility.
Right.
There's the vesica piscis, which is simply 2 overlapping circles. The almond shape in the middle where they overlap symbolizes duality, the merging of opposites, and the gateway between the physical and spiritual worlds. It's perfect for partnership or relationship grids.
Very common for couples.
And the Sri Yantra, an ancient Hindu symbol of 9 interlocking triangles that radiate out from a center point, representing the complex union of masculine and feminine energy and the journey from the material outward toward the divine.
So when a practitioner sits down to build a grid, they're making a highly conscious choice. They're saying, I have these specific targeted crystals, and I'm going to lay them out upon this specific universal blueprint to force their energies to interact in a precise way.
I always look at building a crystal grid like building a custom motherboard for a computer.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to phrase it.
Thanks. Like the sacred geometry pattern, whether you have it printed on a piece of paper or carved into a beautiful wooden board or even just visualized on your floor, is the raw circuit board.
Right.
The intention you hold in your mind is the electrical power source. And the crystals are the specialized microchips, the RAM, the processors that you are plugging into the board.
That is the perfect way to understand the architecture. And the assembly of this motherboard is meticulous. You don't just dump the stones onto the pattern.
So how do you start?
You start by cleansing the space and setting your intention clearly. Then you place your center anchor stone. This is usually the largest stone, often a clear quartz point or a crystal sphere, placed dead center in the geometry.
This is the CPU. This is the heart of the grid that gathers your intention and broadcasts it outward to the rest of the board.
Next, you place your supporting crystals on the specific intersecting lines or nodes of the geometric patterns surrounding the anchor.
Okay.
The placement must be symmetrical to ensure the energy flows evenly. So if you are building a grid for rapid financial growth on a Metatron's cube pattern, your center anchor might be a massive piece of citrine.
For abundance.
Right. Then on the inner nodes, you might place pyrite to draw in physical wealth. On the outer nodes, you might place green aventurine to foster long-term growth and luck.
But the motherboard doesn't turn on just because you plug the chips in. You have to boot it up. You have to activate it.
Yeah. The activation is the closing of the energetic circuit. You take a crystal wand, usually a slim point of clear quartz or simply your index finger, and you physically trace the unseen lines of energy between the stones.
You actually draw the lines.
Yeah, you start at the center anchor, trace a line out to a supporting stone, trace to the next supporting stone, and back to the center. You systematically connect every single stone on the board, visualizing a web of glowing connective light, linking them all together into a single pulsing entity.
And once that circuit is closed, the grid begins to hum. It is broadcasting that frequency into your environment 204/7.
Exactly.
But practitioners often don't stop there. They combine the crystal grid with candle magic to really supercharge the intention, basically hooking the motherboard up to a massive external power supply.
Candles introduce the element of fire, which universally across every human culture represents active transformation. Fire changes things.
It definitely does.
You are literally turning solid matter, the wax, into heat, energy, and light. It is an active, dynamic, consuming force. When you bring fire into a crystal grid, you are moving the energy from a passive broadcast to an active manifestation.
And just like the stones, the visual color of the candle matters immensely, tapping into that exact same evolutionary color psychology.
Absolutely.
A red candle is going to fuel passion, lust, and vital energy. A green candle is burning for financial growth, abundance, and physical healing. A white candle is the universal blank slate, burning for purity, truth, and protection.
Right.
A black candle is used for banishing. It absorbs light, so it burns away negative energy, hexes, or toxic attachments. A pink candle burns for emotional healing, romance, and friendship.
But the magic isn't just in striking a match. The texts detail a deeply sensory preparation process called dressing, or anointing the candle.
Dressing it.
Yeah, you don't just burn the wax, you infuse the wax with additional layers of botanical and energetic frequency. This involves rubbing the candle with specific essential oils that correspond to your goal.
And here is where the mechanics of the magic get incredibly specific.
Yeah.
Because the physical direction that you rub the oil onto the candle fundamentally alters what the spell is doing.
It does.
Why is that?
It is the physical manifestation of desire versus rejection. If your goal is to attract something into your life, you want to draw in a new lover, you want to draw in wealth, you want to bring health to your body, you rub the oil starting from the top of the candle and pull it downward toward the center.
Okay.
And then from the bottom pulling upward toward the center. You are literally, physically making a drawing in motion with your hands. You are gathering energy toward yourself.
But if your goal is banishing, say you were trying to break a nicotine addiction,
Yeah.
or banish a toxic ex-partner from your thoughts, or clear an illness,
Huh.
you do the exact opposite.
Exactly opposite.
You start at the center of the candle and you rub the oil aggressively outward toward the top wick and toward the bottom base.
Yeah.
You are physically pushing the energy away from you.
It is entirely about psychological and physical congruency. Your body's movements must match the intention in your mind.
That makes a lot of sense.
After the candle is oiled, practitioners will often roll the sticky wax in dried herbs, lavender for peace, cinnamon for speed and heat, crushed rose petals for love. They might even embed tiny crystal chips directly into the wax.
Then you place that fully dressed, heavily loaded candle directly in the center of your crystal grid, perhaps replacing the center anchor stone or sitting right beside it.
Right.
You light the wick, and you let that flame act as the roaring engine that takes the structured geometry of the crystals and blasts it out into the universe.
The level of focus required to execute this is profound. Think about the steps involved.
It's a lot.
You have to select the geometry, cleanse the stones, program the stones, arrange them symmetrically, select the candle color, choose the oil, anoint the candle with the correct physical motion, select the herbs, place the candle, trace the activation lines, and light the flame all while holding a single, unwavering intention in your mind.
You literally cannot be scrolling on your phone or worrying about your grocery list while doing this.
You can't. It forces you into a state of absolute hyper-focused presence. It is a highly sensory, deeply immersive, psychological, and spiritual ritual.
So grids and candle magic are fundamentally about projecting your will outward. You are telling the universe what you want.
Yes.
But what happens when you don't know what you want? What happens when you need answers? rather than results.
Ah.
This brings us to the tools used to pull information inward. Let's explore divination, scrying, and pendulums.
Divination is the art of seeking hidden knowledge, and scrying is perhaps one of the most historically prevalent yet deeply misunderstood methods of divination.
Yeah, the pop culture image of scrying is just a fortune teller hunched over a glowing crystal ball, watching a high-definition movie play out inside the glass, showing exactly who you will marry or how you will die.
Right, it's treated like a magical television set, but the actual practice is a very different, much more internal psychological phenomenon.
Oh, so.
Crystal scrying is a form of divination where the practitioner gazes into a reflective, translucent, or deeply dark surface to intentionally induce an altered state of consciousness. It is, functionally, an open-eye meditation designed to bypass the conscious brain.
And the environmental setup is critical for this to work. You cannot scry in a brightly lit room with a TV on. You need sensory deprivation.
Total sensory deprivation.
The texts recommend a dark, quiet room, lit only by a single candle placed behind or to the side of the crystal. This dim lighting enhances the reflective, shadowy quality of the stone, but more importantly, it removes visual distractions that would keep the conscious analytical brain engaged.
And the stones used for this are specific. You aren't using a jagged, raw piece of quartz. You are using a flawless, traditional clear quartz crystal ball, which bends and refracts light in hypnotic ways.
Right.
Or conversely, you use a black obsidian mirror. Obsidian is volcanic glass, and when polished flat into a mirror, it creates this deep, impenetrable, bottomless black reflection. It is like staring into the void.
The physical process of scrying requires immense discipline. You sit before the stone. You do not stare intensely, trying to force an image to appear. Staring creates eye strain and engages the analytical mind.
Exactly.
Instead, you softly gaze into the depths of the stone. You allow your eyes to slightly unfocus, looking through the surface rather than at the surface.
You are intentionally trying to alter your brainwaves, aren't you?
You are trying to move from the active, alert beta state into the relaxed, trance-like alpha or theta states.
Exactly. When you hold that soft gaze in a dark room for long enough, the visual cortex begins to get starved of new information. It gets bored.
Right.
And when the brain is deprived of external sensory input, it starts generating its own internal imagery to fill the void. This is a documented psychological phenomenon. As you sit in that trance-like state, the text notes that the crystal may seem to cloud over or fill with mist.
Wow.
And out of that mist, you might begin to perceive flashes of shapes, colors, or patterns.
But you aren't seeing literal events. You aren't seeing tomorrow's lottery numbers. You are seeing symbols.
It is the subconscious mind communicating through deeply ingrained archetypes. The text provides a fascinating glossary of common symbols that might arise.
Like what?
If you see the image or the movement of water, it usually symbolizes a need for emotional healing, the processing of grief, or the necessity of a cleanse. If you see fire, it represents incoming transformation, destruction of the old or hidden burning passion.
Seeing birds or feathers might indicate a need to elevate your perspective, to look at a problem from a higher vantage point, or it could symbolize a message coming your way.
Right.
Seeing paths, crossroads, or doors obviously represents upcoming choices, transitions, or feeling lost in your current trajectory.
It is exactly like interpreting a dream, except you are awake and you are consciously directing the dream process. You are allowing intuitive symbolic thought to rise from the deep subconscious to the surface of the crystal, where your conscious mind can finally examine it.
Another prominent tool used to bypass the conscious mind is the pendulum. This is the practice of dowsing. Physically, a pendulum is incredibly simple. It is a weighted object in crystal witchcraft, usually a faceted crystal point attached to the end of a flexible chain or string. You hold the top of the chain, let the crystal dangle freely, and ask it questions.
But a pendulum isn't a magic 8-ball right out of the box. You have to establish its language. You have to calibrate it.
How do you do that?
Before a session, a practitioner will hold the pendulum completely still, center themselves, and ask out loud, "Show me yes." Then they wait and observe how the crystal begins to swing. It might swing vertically, back and forth, it might swing horizontally, or it might swing in a clockwise circle.
Once that movement is established, you stop it and you ask, "Show me no," and observe the contrasting movement. You might also ask for "maybe." or I don't know.
Right.
Once that baseline language is locked in, you can begin asking the pendulum direct yes or no questions about decisions you're agonizing over, paths you should take, or even use it over a map to locate lost objects or blocked energy.
Now, here's where I absolutely have to introduce some friction.
Okay, lay it on me.
Because anyone who has taken a basic Psychology 101 class is going to hear about a pendulum moving on its own and immediately scream, ideomotor effect.
Ah, yes, the classic scientific rebuttal to dowsing.
Right. The ideomotor effect is a highly documented psychological phenomenon where a person makes tiny unconscious micromuscle movements that cause an object they are holding to move entirely without them realizing they are the ones doing it.
It's what makes the Ouija board work, right?
Exactly. It is the exact mechanism that causes the planchette to move on a Ouija board. It's not ghosts. It's your own twitching muscles. So, if I'm a practitioner seeking genuine spiritual guidance, how do I differentiate between a true divine message from the universe moving the pendulum and my own subconscious micromuscle twitches just telling me what I want to hear?
That is the exact right question to ask. It's the core tension of divination. But what's absolutely fascinating here is that within the philosophical framework of modern crystal witchcraft, the answer to your question is, it fundamentally does not matter.
Wait, it doesn't matter if it's fake.
It's not fake. It's just a different source of truth. Think about the entire goal of using the pendulum. Why are you using it?
To get an answer.
Right. You are using it because your conscious, analytical, anxious mind is paralyzed. You are overthinking a decision to the point of exhaustion, and that anxiety is blocking your deep internal intuition. You actually already know the right answer, but your fear is drowning it out.
Okay, I'm following.
So you hold the pendulum. If the crystal swings to yes, because an external spiritual entity reached into the physical plane and moved the stone, wonderful. You have your answer for the divine.
Sure.
But if the crystal swings to yes, because your deep subconscious mind, which inherently knows what you truly desire, what is best for you, triggered an undetectable micromuscle movement in your hand to force the pendulum to swing yes, you still got the exact right answer.
Oh, wow. That completely reframes it.
The tool successfully bypassed your conscious overthinking. The pendulum was the focal point that allowed your deep inner knowing to express itself physically. Whether the mechanism was divine intervention or the physical manifestation of your own repressed intuition, the pendulum served its exact vital purpose. It revealed the truth you were hiding from yourself.
That is a phenomenal way to view divination. The crystal is the bridge across the chasm of your own anxiety, regardless of who is walking across it.
Exactly. And this idea of clearing out the anxiety, of bypassing the conscious mind to find deep internal alignment, naturally leads us to how practitioners map and heal the physical body itself. Let's move to the inner landscape. Let's talk about chakra healing and meditation.
The concept of chakras does not originate in Western witchcraft. It originates in ancient Indian spiritual traditions, specifically within Hinduism and Tantric Buddhism. However, the chakra system has been heavily adopted and integrated into modern crystal healing because it provides such a flawless, structured map of human energy. The word chakra translates to wheel. They are viewed as spinning, swirling wheels or vortexes of energetic frequency located along the central column of the body, starting at the base of the spine and running up to the top of the head.
There are 7 main chakras, and each one governs very specific physical organs, emotional states, and spiritual functions. And naturally, because we are talking about vibrational frequencies and color psychology, there are specific crystals assigned to help unblock and balance each of these 7 centers.
Let's walk through this map, starting from the ground up, because the architecture here is highly intentional.
You have to start at the bottom. At the very base of the spine, near the tailbone, you have the root chakra. This is your foundation.
In evolutionary terms, this is your survival instinct.
Right. It governs your sense of physical safety, your basic needs for food and shelter, and your feeling of being grounded in the physical world. If your root chakra is blocked or spinning erratically, you feel anxious, panicked, flighty, and terrified of the future. You are untethered.
So to anchor that erratic, panicked energy, you use the heaviest, densest, darkest stones in the toolkit. The colors associated with the root are deep reds and pitch blacks.
Okay.
You work with stones like smoky quartz, red jasper, and black tourmaline. You literally place these stones at your feet or base to create a heavy, energetic anchor.
Moving up the body, just below the navel, we hit the sacral chakra. If the root is about survival, the sacral is about what makes survival enjoyable.
Yes.
This is the center of creativity, pleasure, sexuality, and emotional fluidity. The color here is a vibrant, warm orange. When a practitioner feels creatively blocked, numb, or disconnected from their passion, they work with orange stones like carnelian, which acts like a spark plug for creative energy, or orange calcite to stimulate that flow.
Next up, located in the upper abdomen around the stomach, is the solar plexus chakra. This is the furnace of your personality. It is the engine of your confidence, your willpower, your ego, and your personal power.
The color is a bright, blazing yellow.
Right. When you are suffering from low self-esteem, when you feel powerless at work, or when you lack the motivation to get off the couch, you are dealing with a depleted solar plexus. You stoke that fire by working with yellow stones like citrine or the highly protective, confidence-boosting tiger's eye.
Then we reach the absolute center of the system, the heart chakra, located right in the center of the chest. The heart chakra is crucial because it acts as the bridge between the lower 3 physical chakras we just discussed and the upper 3 spiritual chakras we are about to discuss.
Right, the bridge.
It governs love, profound compassion, forgiveness, and emotional balance.
And interestingly, the colors assigned to the heart chakra aren't just pink, but also deep green.
Why great?
Yes, pink represents the soft, inward-facing energy of self-love and gentle compassion, which is why rose quartz is so prevalent here. But green represents outward-facing, dynamic, healing growth. So practitioners will often use malachite to draw out deep, toxic emotional trauma from the heart, or green aventurine to foster a healthy, growing capacity to love others.
Moving upward into the realm of expression, we have the throat chakra, located at the base of the throat. This center governs communication, honesty, and your ability to express your authentic truth to the outside world without fear. The color here is a clear, vibrant blue.
Okay.
If you are someone who constantly swallows their words, who is afraid to speak up in meetings, or who lies to avoid conflict, your throat chakra is restricted. Blue lace agate is frequently used here for gentle, calm communication, or lapis lazuli to force deep, profound truths to the surface.
Between the eyebrows, dead center in the forehead, is the third eye chakra. We touched on the function of this center when we discussed scrying. It governs intuition, deep insight, imagination, and spiritual awareness.
Right, seeing beyond the physical.
Exactly. It is your ability to see beyond the physical illusion. The color is a deep indigo or purple. Amethyst is the absolute king of the third eye, used to stimulate psychic awareness, along with stones like purple fluorite, to organize chaotic thoughts and bring mental clarity.
Finally, at the very peak, hovering just above the top of the head, is the crown chakra. If the root anchors you to the dirt, the crown connects you to the cosmos. It is your tether to higher consciousness, to the divine, and to pure universal energy.
The highest frequency.
The colors are brilliant, white, clear, or a transcendent violet. Clear quartz is used to blast this center open, while selenite is used to facilitate a smooth, pure connection to higher realms.
When I look at this entire chakra map, I immediately think of the plumbing system in a 7-story high-rise building.
Okay, I like this.
Water has to flow from the city mains into the basement and be pumped all the way up to the penthouse. If the root chakra, the plumbing in the basement, has a massive blockage or a ruptured pipe, it doesn't matter how beautiful the gold faucets are in the crown chakra penthouse.
Right.
The water pressure gets entirely thrown off for the heart, the throat, and the third eye. You literally cannot fix the roof if the foundation is sinking.
That analogy highlights exactly why this must be a holistic practice. You cannot ignore your basic physical needs for safety and survival, the root, and expect to achieve high-level spiritual enlightenment at the crown.
Exactly.
The text outlined very specific physical layouts to address these blockages holistically. A practitioner won't just hold one stone. They will lie down flat on their back in a meditative state and physically place these specific stones directly onto the corresponding biological areas of their body.
You literally place the heavy black tourmaline between your feet, the orange carnelian on your lower stomach, the pink rose quartz resting directly on your sternum, the blue lapis on your throat, and the purple amethyst balanced on your forehead.
You become a living crystal grid.
Exactly. You are laying the stones along the major nerve plexuses of the human body, attempting to force the erratic nervous system to entrain to the stable frequencies of the stones. And it's not just esoteric balancing. The literature discusses using specific body layouts for highly tangible physical and emotional responses.
Right, like placing bloodstone, which is deeply tied to the circulatory system, over areas of the body to theoretically support blood flow.
Or My absolute favorite detail from the reading, which we teased at the very beginning of the deep dive, the use of lepidolite.
Yes.
Lepidolite is this gorgeous, shimmering lilac-purple stone. In crystal witchcraft, it is prescribed for laying on the body to process severe anxiety, manic thoughts, and to promote deep, restful sleep. And why does it work? Because lepidolite is one of the world's most abundant sources of raw lithium.
It's mind-blowing.
It literally physically contains the exact same mineral that modern psychiatry isolates and synthesizes into medication to stabilize mood disorders.
It is the ultimate vindication of ancient intuition. Our ancestors didn't know what lithium was, but they knew that when they held this specific purple stone, the frantic buzzing energy in their minds slowed down.
Right.
They matched the energetic frequency of the stone to the human ailment. And thousands of years later, chemical science arrived and confirmed, yes, the molecular composition of that stone actively sedates the human nervous system.
It bridges the gap between magic and science perfectly. So once a practitioner has mastered this internal landscape, once they have cleared the blockages and the plumbing of that 7-story high-rise is flowing perfectly, they don't just stop.
No, they push it.
They push the boundaries. They start experimenting with how far they can manipulate this energy. Let's move into advanced applications. We are talking about crystal elixirs, combining crystals with Reiki, and the highly esoteric practice of astral projection.
Let's begin with crystal elixirs, because this represents a massive shift in the practice.
Oh,
Up until now, everything we have discussed involves external application, holding a stone, placing it on the body, looking at it.
Right.
An elixir is internal. It is the practice of infusing water with the vibrational frequency of a specific crystal, and then physically drinking that water to absorb the energy from the inside out.
And right here, we need to slam on the brakes and put up a massive flashing neon safety warning.
Yes, please.
Because this is where well-meaning beginners can seriously hurt themselves.
Yeah. The literature is extremely explicit about the dangers here, and it all comes back to geology and chemistry. There are two methods for creating an elixir: the direct method and the indirect method.
Right.
The direct method is exactly what it sounds like. You take a cleansed, programmed stone, you drop it directly into a glass pitcher of spring water, and you leave it sitting in the moonlight or sunlight to charge. The water molecules supposedly absorb the vibration of the stone, and then you drink the water.
But you cannot, under any circumstances, do this with just any stone from the crystal shop.
Absolutely not. Many crystals are highly toxic when submerged in water, or they will completely disintegrate. Selenite, for example, is a gypsum derivative. It is water-soluble. If you put a selenite wand in a pitcher of water, it will literally dissolve into a cloudy, gritty mush. You've ruined the stone.
But ruining the stone is the best-case scenario. The worst-case scenario is poisoning yourself.
Exactly. Take malachite, that beautiful green stone of healing. Malachite is a copper carbonate hydroxide mineral. If you leave malachite soaking in drinking water, it will leach heavy amounts of raw copper into the liquid.
Wow.
If you drink that, you are ingesting a toxic heavy metal soup that can cause severe liver damage. Pyrite, or fool's gold, contains iron sulfide. In water, it can produce sulfuric acid. You cannot drink that.
Which is exactly why advanced practitioners rely almost exclusively on the indirect method.
How does the indirect method keep the practitioner safe?
In the indirect method, the crystal never touches the water you are going to consume. You take your malachite or your pyrite and you place it completely dry inside a small sealed glass jar or test tube. Then you submerge that sealed glass container into your larger pitcher of drinking water. The stone is protected from the water, and the water is protected from the toxic chemistry of the stone.
And for practitioners who want to preserve the energy of these elixirs for more than a few days, the text mentions taking that charged water and adding a small amount of high-proof alcohol, like vodka or apple cider vinegar, as a preservative. They bottle it in amber dropper bottles, essentially creating a vibrational tincture where they can place a few drops under their tongue daily.
But let me play the skeptic here regarding the physics of the indirect method.
Okay, do it.
If the entire point of an elixir is for the water to absorb the energy of the stone, but the crystal is sealed inside its own thick glass jar, and it never actually makes physical contact with the drinking water, how on earth does the water absorb the magic? Is it just the placebo effect?
If we look purely at the metaphysical claim, and we apply the physics of vibration we discussed in the very beginning, the mechanism makes perfect sense. We're talking about acoustic resonance and sympathetic vibration. Frequency does not require direct physical contact to permeate an environment or alter a substance.
Okay, walk me through that.
Let's go back to the tuning fork. If I strike a tuning fork that is tuned to the note of A, and I hold it an inch away from a glass of water, the tuning fork never touches the water.
Right.
But the sound waves, the literal kinetic vibrations radiating from the metal, travel through the air, strike the side of the glass, travel through the glass barrier, and cause the water molecules inside to ripple and vibrate at that exact same frequency of A. So in the metaphysical framework, the crystal is constantly emitting a stable, subtle, energetic frequency. That frequency easily permeates the physical barrier of the glass tube and structures the energetic alignment of the water surrounding it. It is acoustic physics applied to metaphysical energy.
That makes profound sense. The barrier prevents chemical contamination, but it cannot block vibrational resonance. And that exact same principle, the idea of directing and amplifying subtle energy, is the core mechanism when practitioners combine crystals with Reiki.
Right, and Reiki is a Japanese energetic healing modality. The word essentially translates to universal life energy. A Reiki practitioner is trained to act as a conduit, channeling this limitless universal energy through their own body, out through their hands, and into the energetic field of a client to clear blockages and promote physical and emotional healing.
So where do the crystals come in?
The crystals act as amplifiers and focus lenses for the Reiki energy. The practitioner might place specific chakra stones on the client's body before the session starts to prep the energetic field. But more actively, the practitioner will hold a clear quartz point in their hand while hovering over the client. Instead of the Reiki energy just radiating diffusely from the palm, the quartz point focuses the energy into a tight laser-like beam, allowing the practitioner to direct massive amounts of healing energy deep into a stubborn, energetic knot in the client's tissue.
Oh, wow.
Or they might use a flat piece of selenite, like an energetic squeegee, sweeping it over the client's aura to physically scrape away heavy, stagnant energy.
It is using the stones as surgical tools to manipulate the energy of another person. But the texts take us to one final, absolute edge of the map, where the practitioner uses the stones to manipulate their own consciousness to extreme degrees. Let's talk about astral projection and dream work.
Astral projection is an incredibly advanced, highly esoteric concept. It is the belief that human consciousness, or the astral body, can intentionally detach from the physical biological body and travel independently to explore higher dimensions, the astral plane, or even distant physical locations.
Right. It is essentially an intentionally induced, highly controlled out-of-body experience.
And crystals play a fascinating dual role in this practice. They act as both the launch pad and the safety net. First, you have to induce the state, which is incredibly difficult because the brain naturally wants to stay anchored to physical sensation.
To facilitate the launch, practitioners use high vibrational stones that heavily stimulate the third eye and crown chakras. They will place a piece of celestite, which is known for connecting to angelic or higher dimensional realms, or lapis lazuli, under their pillow before sleep.
Okay.
The persistent high frequency of these stones near the brain is said to induce incredibly vivid, hyper-lucid dreams, keeping the conscious mind awake while the physical body falls asleep. This liminal state body asleep, mind awake, is the launch pad for astral detachment.
But the second role of the crystals here is arguably more important. Protection and tethering. When the consciousness is off exploring the astral plane, the physical body is left empty and vulnerable. Furthermore, the consciousness needs to know how to get back. You don't want the balloon to float away forever.
Exactly. So before attempting to project, a practitioner will create a heavy energetic anchor. They will place deeply grounding, dense stones like large chunks of red jasper, black tourmaline, or hematite at the base of the bed, under the mattress, or even tape them to the soles of their feet.
They are literally tying sandbags to the hot air balloon.
That is exactly what they are doing. The grounding stones create a dense, energetic tether to the physical realm. They ensure the physical body remains grounded and protected from negative astral entities, and they provide a strong, unmistakable, heavy homing beacon for the astral body to safely follow back down when the journey is over.
It is wild how logically structured this all is. Even in the most esoteric, unprovable realms of magic, there is a rigid system of cause and effect. Every action has a counteraction. Every massive expansion into the cosmos requires an equally massive grounding into the dirt. Which actually leads me to a very grounding thought. We have gone incredibly deep today. We've talked about ancient Egyptian cosmology, toxic heavy metal elixirs, laser beam Reiki, and detaching the soul from the body. That is fascinating, but how does the listener apply any of this on a random Tuesday morning when they are just trying to get through a stressful commute or deal with a chaotic household?
Right.
How do we integrate this? This brings us to everyday integration.
The true mark of a masterful magical practice isn't how well you perform a complex ritual once a year. It is how seamlessly the principles blend into the mundane reality of your daily life. And the texts provide incredibly practical, grounded applications for this, starting with the most important environment you exist in: home protection.
Your home is your sanctuary, and its energy needs to be aggressively curated.
The physical placements recommended here are highly strategic. It's almost like energetic feng shui. The texts universally recommend placing pieces of black tourmaline right at the entryways of your home, on the windowsill by the front door, or hidden in a planter by the back door.
Because black tourmaline is the ultimate absorber of negativity. By placing it at the threshold, it acts as an energetic bouncer. It absorbs the stress, the road rage, the office politics, and the general negativity from the outside world, stripping it off of you and your guests before that energy can enter your living space.
You don't just want a void, you want positive flow inside the house. So you place selenite towers or lawns in the corners of your main living areas. Selenite is unique among crystals because it doesn't just absorb energy, it is constantly emanating a purifying light.
So it cleanses the room.
It continually cleanses the ambient energy of a room, keeping the atmosphere feeling light, peaceful, and unstagnant.
And then there is a very modern application mentioned in the text, shungite. Shungite is an ancient, incredibly rare, carbon-rich stone found almost exclusively in Russia. In modern crystal witchcraft, shungite is highly regarded for its alleged ability to neutralize electromagnetic frequencies, or EMFs, which are emitted by our electronics.
Which are everywhere.
Right. The texts specifically recommend placing chunks of shungite near your Wi-Fi router next to your television or right on your computer desk to absorb that frantic artificial technological buzz that can disrupt sleep and cause low-grade anxiety.
Beyond curating the home, there is personal integration out in the world through wearables and pocket stones. If you are going to wear crystal jewelry, the texts note that the metal setting absolutely matters. You want highly conductive natural metals like sterling silver, pure gold, or copper. These metals amplify and transmit the vibration of the stone. You want to avoid cheap plated base metals or plastics that can stifle or block the frequency.
And the placement of the jewelry on your body is just a mobile application of the chakra layouts we discussed. Wearing a rose quartz pendant on a long chain places the stone directly over your heart chakra, keeping that center open and protected all day. Wearing a crystal ring can focus your intention into the physical tasks you are doing with your hands, like writing, painting, or healing.
Or keeping it as incredibly simple and low effort as possible. Just dropping a tumbled piece of citrine into your front pocket before you walk into a meeting where you need a daily boost of abundance, confidence, and sharp mental clarity. You just reach your hand in your pocket, touch the smooth stone, and remind yourself of the frequency you programmed into it.
The texts also offer a beautiful, immersive end-of-day practice to wash away the mundane world, the ritual bath. This is where you can combine several of the elements we've discussed today, crystals, intention, herbs, and water, into one deeply restorative experience.
You draw a warm bath and you add Epsom salts. The magnesium in the salts physically relaxes the muscle tissue, while the salt itself is traditionally used to energetically scrub and cleanse the aura of attachment.
Okay.
You add herbs, maybe scattering fresh rose petals on the water if you are manifesting love and self-compassion, or dried lavender if you need to banish anxiety and find peace. You add a few drops of essential oils.
And then you place water-safe crystals directly into the tub with you, essentially turning the bath water into a massive, full-body crystal elixir.
Again, reiterating the massive safety warning from earlier. Make absolutely sure you are using water-safe, non-toxic stones like clear quartz, rose quartz, or amethyst.
Yes, very important.
Do not put selenite in your bathwater unless you want to bathe with dissolving mush, and never use malachite or pyrite.
You submerge yourself in that water, surrounded by the stones, the scent, and the heat, and you visualize a water drawing out the chaos of the day and replacing it with the stable frequency of the crystals. When you pull the plug, you visualize all the stress draining away down the pipes.
So, when we step back and look at all of this, what does this actually mean for you, the listener?
I look at these everyday integrations, putting a piece of shungite by the Wi-Fi router, leaving a piece of black tourmaline by the front door, taking a 20-minute ritual bath surrounded by rose quartz. And I realized something profound about human behavior.
What's that?
Even if you are a total skeptic, even if you strip away every ounce of the magic, the spells, and the metaphysical frequencies, and you look at this purely through the lens of cognitive psychology, it is brilliant. Because placing a physical stone next to your router is an unavoidable physical reminder to engage in a digital detox. Every time you look at the router, you see the stone, and it triggers the thought, I need to put my phone down.
Oh, absolutely.
Placing a black stone by your front door is a psychological cue. It is a physical threshold that tells your brain you are leaving your work stress outside. You are setting a boundary for your home. It's highly effective behavioral conditioning.
That is a highly astute, incredibly grounded observation. It bridges the gap perfectly. Whether the stone is emitting a literal, measurable piezoelectric frequency that is actively shifting the bioelectric energy of the room, or whether the stone is simply acting as a powerful physical, psychological anchor that shifts your behavior and your internal focus, the end result is exactly the same.
Your life improves. The environment becomes more peaceful. You become more intentional.
Exactly. The mechanism almost doesn't matter if the result is a better, more focused human experience.
We have covered an immense amount of ground in this deep dive. We started with the intense, violent geological pressure deep within the crust of the Earth, the heat and the time that physically forms these beautiful stones and locks in their stable molecular frequency.
We explored how ancient civilizations, from the Egyptians to the Greeks, intuitively recognized that power. We examined the modern methodology of selection, energetic cleansing, and the psychological focus required to program these stones, utilizing them as specialized surgical tools, scalpels, instead of Swiss Army knives, to tune our chaotic personal energy.
We looked at the profound architecture of sacred geometry, networking these individual stones together into complex crystal grids that act like motherboards, powered by the transformative active energy of dressed candles and fire.
We peered beyond the physical veil, exploring the altered brain states of scrying and the subconscious bypassing of pendulums, allowing deep, repressed intuition to surface.
We mapped the internal plumbing of the human body through the 7-story high-rise of the chakra system, matching evolutionary color psychology and mineral composition like lithium-rich lepidolite to our deepest physical and emotional needs.
We pushed into the highly advanced, high-stakes realms of carefully crafted, preserved crystal elixirs, the amplification of Reiki energy healing, and the necessity of heavy grounding tethers during astral projection.
And finally, we brought it all back down to earth, into your living room, with the daily mundane rituals of home protection, pocket stones, and manifestation baths. Which brings me back to you.
Right.
Because whether you approach this hour as an esoteric study of ancient literal magic, or you listen to this as an exploration of a highly structured, brilliant psychological system for mindfulness and behavioral conditioning, the wealth of historical and practical knowledge here is immense. It forces you to look at the physical world differently.
It really does. And as we wrap up this deep dive, there is a fascinating, almost philosophical concept from the final chapters of the source materials regarding what it means to live as a crystal witch that I think brings this entire conversation into sharp focus. Mm-hmm. The literature notes that modern crystal witchcraft is not a rigid, orthodox religion where you are punished for doing it wrong. It heavily contrasts highly structured, dogmatic traditions with eclectic, highly personal, intuitive practices.
It's adaptable to the practitioner.
Highly adaptable. And because of that, it suggests that crystal witchcraft isn't just about casting spells when you are in trouble or setting up a complex Metatron's cube grid only when you desperately need money. It is a way of life.
It's a constant daily integration, a persistent state of awareness.
Exactly. So I want to leave the listener with this final thought to mull over, and it challenges the very premise of everything we just discussed. What if the true ultimate magic of crystal witchcraft isn't found inside the molecular piezoelectric structure of the stones at all? What if the real magic is simply in the relentless daily practice of gratitude, self-reflection, and intentionality that caring for these stones forces you to maintain?
Oh, love that.
Think about it. The stones demand that you pause. They demand that you clean your physical space. They require you to sit quietly, set a clear, honest intention, and deeply reflect on what you actually need versus what you want. In a chaotic, hyper-fast, digital world where we are constantly reacting, maybe that forced, structured pause is the most powerful magic there is.
It brings us right back to the beginning. Life is murky. It is chaotic. You can't always get an x-ray of your soul to see what's broken.
Yeah.
You can't always get a neat spreadsheet detailing your emotional deficits. But you can stop. You can hold a smooth, heavy stone in your hand. You can take a deep breath, ground yourself in the physical moment, and actively decide what frequency you want to tune into today.
Very well said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep exploring.